Hey everybody! Before I get started reading Matilda for today, I wanted to talk to you all about how to choose a book that's just right for you to read. I've got my beautiful girl Sashimi here. She's interested in helping us out. She thinks that she might find an interesting book for herself, but I'm not sure any of these are at her reading level. If you're going to find a book that's just right for you, the first thing you've got to do is decide what kind of book you're interested in reading it. And you guys already know that books are separated out by genres, and there are two different kinds of genres. I'm going to give you a couple seconds to think about what those two are. If you said fiction and nonfiction, you are right, because those are the two main genres of textbooks that you can find. Sashi is sitting or just walking across the fiction genre. I've got some examples of books that are fictional right here. Thank you, Sashi, for pointing those out to us. Fiction books are books that have made up stories. They might be realistic fiction, like this book called Esperanza Rising. It's a realistic fiction because all the things in this book could actually happen in real life. Never mind the picture of her floating through the air. That doesn't actually happen in the story, but you get the picture. Anything that has a book, any book that has a story that could have happened in real life, that's a realistic fiction. But there's a whole bunch of other ones. For example, Matilda. Now, after listening to the last chapter of Matilda yesterday, you guys should have a pretty good idea right now that all the things in this book are things that cannot happen necessarily in real life. I mean, some of them are, but I don't know when the last time I heard somebody in real life who could move things with their eyes. I think that is not a realistic fiction text. That's got to be fantasy. We've got The Lightning Thief over here and Harry Potter. Those are also fictional texts, and they're also fantasies. We know that the things that happen in Harry Potter and The Lightning Thief couldn't possibly happen in real life. So those are fiction and they're fantasies. But we've got other books here like The Secret Garden. That's a mystery. It's a story. It's made up, but it's a mystery. So that's a different genre. Apple Blossom the Possum. It looks like that the main character is a possum that probably talks. So maybe you can tell me what genre of fiction is that. Short stories are also fictional texts sometimes. Every Living Thing. This one is has some really good stories about different animals, and then The Practical Princess and Other Liberating Fairy Tales. If you're lucky, I might read some of these to you later. That's a book that my mother read to me when I was little. But anyway, enough about fiction, because that's not all there is to it. There's some really awesome nonfiction texts too. And like you all know, nonfiction texts are texts about things that really happened or really could happen. So what you're looking at right here with Sonia Sotomayor and Portraits of Hispanic American Heroes, those are biographies. Same with She Persisted and Women in Science. Those are all biographies because they tell us about real people's lives, things that real people did that we might think are interesting. Of course, you can find books about space. You know how much I love learning about the solar system, our universe, black holes, space exploration, all of that. That's a non-fictional text because the things it tells you about in here are true. You could also grab yourself an atlas. This is a world atlas. This will tell you a lot of things about the world we live in. Atlases often have maps in them. Lots of maps. Look on every page. Every page I flip to, there's a map. There's also charts, graphs. But if you're interested in learning about the world, an atlas is a great place to start. Here's an adventure atlas. Let's take a look at this one. And look at that. Go figure. More maps. This one has a lot of facts in it. Manuals. I mean, atlases are going to tell you all sorts of facts about the places and the things inside of them. You can learn a lot about places in an atlas. And, oh, you guys recognize our Journeys textbook in this pile? Now, our Journeys textbook happens to have a lot of fiction and nonfiction in it. Usually the texts in there are not the whole story, though. A lot of times they're just parts of the story. You know that. We've read parts of those stories, some of them. Now, let me show you books that I'm reading right now. Setting Limits in the Classroom and Teach Like a Champion. Those are books that the school wants us to read. They gave us those. That's like kind of teacher homework. So I've been reading those. This is a book called Coyote's Guide to Connecting with Nature, and I love this book. I use this book to help me come up with ideas for teaching you all outside. You guys know how much I enjoy that. And if you wonder where I got the idea for sit spots, it was right here in this book. Do you guys recognize my teacher book? Yeah, you recognize that. It's down here somewhere. That's not anything I read, that's stuff I write, but still, it's important. And I guess I'll give you another peek inside my life. Here is my living room personal library bookshelf. So I'm going to let you see some of the books that I have read in my life. Some of my favorite books I thought that were most interesting, books I've learned from quite a bit. Now this one, Ender's Shadow right here. Orson Scott Card is the author of this book. This is a series of books about the main character named Ender. When you get to be a really good reader, you should pick this book up because it's amazing. Some other books in there. This is mostly, these books are mostly non-fiction. This is fiction though. Now up here I got some other books. These are all fantasy and historical fiction. Princess Bride. It's a great book. You might have seen a movie called The Princess Bride. If you haven't, you should check that out. Ooh, you guys will probably read Lord of the Flies when you get to high school. It's a really interesting book. Some crazy stuff happens in that. Ooh, I got The Hobbit. It's a good book. Ooh, Last Unicorn. There's a movie about that too. There's some books over here. There's some books over here for sure. And now I want to talk about this book because this is the book I'm reading right now. I've actually read this book once before and I really liked it. You guys know my favorite genre of fiction text anyway. That's science fiction and fantasy. Well, this is science fiction, and I really like it. I can't tell you anything about it without giving you a summary, right? A summary of the book. And there are some things that you need to know if you're going to summarize a book. The first thing you need to know is what genre it is, right? You need to know the genre. You need to know where the setting is, and the setting is the place that it takes place in, what time it's in, where the story is taking place. You need to know who the main characters are and the main events and what the story is mostly about. So if I was going to summarize this book for you, I would tell you that the genre is science fiction. You already knew that. The setting, this book takes place in the near future. So this is a story about things that happen in a time that hasn't happened yet. So in the future here, this is but it's not so far away from. It's the near future, and in the future, in this book, there's nanotechnology everywhere, and nano means really, really small. They've got nanotechnology where they can create stuff out of thin air, and virtual reality is everywhere too. There's a lot of technology going on that's changed the lives of human beings. It's so different than the way we live now. But anyway, the main character in this story is a little girl, actually, and her name is Nell. And the idea behind this story is that she finds this book. It's a very powerful book, and she gets this book by accident, kind of, and this book, it bonds with her. It's almost like it's alive, but not quite. But it bonds with her, and it can teach her anything in the world. So that's the main idea. Some of the important events, let's see. In this book, first thing that happens, right, there's this scientist, and he helps make this book, and the book is supposed to be for a princess. The king wants the princess to be able to learn all sorts of things really well, so he asks this scientist to make this book, and he does, but he's got a daughter of his own, and he decides to secretly make a copy of this book for his own daughter, and then he's going to take it home to her. So he makes this copy, but when he's on the way home with it, he gets attacked and loses the book. And one of the person who takes the book, that's Nell's older brother, and he gives her the book, and before she knows it, this book has bonded with her and starts to teach her all sorts of things that only a princess is supposed to know. And that's the summary of this book so far. I can't tell you what happens in it, but I will tell you that this book is a great choice for me, not just because of the story, what it's about, and what kind of genre it is, but almost more importantly, this book is a good book for me because it is a book where I learn something new on every page. And that's what I want for you guys to have happen. And you guys might be saying, well, Miss Whaley, this is a fictional text. This isn't true. This isn't about science or a real person. So how can you be learning something new? And I can say simple. New words. I learned so many new words by reading this book because you guys know I love words, but I don't know them all. I can't tell you every word in that big old red dictionary at our classroom. So if I find a book that has words in it that I don't know, I snatched that book up so I can increase my vocabulary because I love words. So finding a book that's just right for you. You want to be able to learn new words, a lot of new words, but you don't want there to be so many new words in the book that you can't understand everything. So there's kind of this rule. If you find one or two words that are new on every page or couple of pages, that's a book that's just right for you. If you're not learning any new words and you've read 5 pages and there are no new words, then that book is way too easy. But if you find 4 or 5 words on every page or more that you don't know, that book is too hard. This is my own personal copy, so I don't want you doing this on library books or books you get from the media center, anything like that. But when I have a book like this that I really like and I'm learning from, I like to write in my book. Don't tell anybody. If I find a word I don't know, I underline it, like coruscating right here. And I don't know that, so I go and look it up in the dictionary. And I come down here and I wrote what it means. Coruscating is a vividly flashing light, sparkling or gleaming light. Who knew, right? And so there were 2 words on this page. On the very next page, nothing on this page, but on this page, another one. I can look up here. Ooh, there's two. There's this one, faience. Never heard of that word before in my life. Glazed earthenware or pottery. Fine pottery with highly colored designs. Okay. And there's another word, involuted, up here, and I wrote something about it. You know, it's my handwriting, doesn't have to be perfect, but I can, as long as you can read it. Involuted, curving inward, or involuted complex nature, right? What? Anyway, if you look, every page that I flip open, I've got words that I don't know. This one had three words I don't know on these 2 pages. One word over there. Could probably go through here and find a whole bunch more. And I'm sure I will. But anyway, that's the book I'm reading right now. Here's Sashi again. Hey, girl. Yep. She's not super talkative, but she will talk back. Anyway, here you go. I want to hear from you guys now. I want to know, what book are you reading right now? I would love to see your answers in the comments. Let's talk about what book you're reading right now. What do you think about it? Sashi and I want to know. Right, girl? Say right. All right, guys. See you on the next one.